Hello everyone, Zerania here, and this is episode 2 of the SCS Insane playthrough. Here I'll be showing the Basilisk trick. It's where you go to High Hedge, pick up a scroll of protection from petrification, teach that to Zar, have him cast it on you, drop group, talk to Korax, tell him he's your buddy, and then have him go up and start hitting things. The protection from petrification keeps the basilisks from, turning you to stone, which would end your run. And Korax tanks them and paralyzes them, which makes it so that you can A, easily hit them, and B, in SCS, if the basilisks don't successfully petrify you after a couple attempts, they start trying to melee you. Here you'll notice I have swapped over to my quarterstaff so that my weapon doesn't break. The Iron Crisis is in full effect, which is why my evil gnome went up and went to the area where the gold bowl is for the quest, and he puts them to sleep and then kills them and takes the flail +1 as well as the bowl for later. This does not give you a reputation hit. Anyone can do this. It's very useful if you have the flails for BG2 for using Flail of Ages. Here I'm carefully sending up Korax so that you can have him start hitting the mage. The mage will cast sleep, he'll cast slow, and I don't want any of that to happen. So I'm just hanging off at the edge of the screen here until Korax actually gets a hit in. You'll see another sleep go off right there. As a berserker, I can just pop off with Berserk and not get CC'd. But I'd rather just let Korax tank until he gets the Petrify. Once he gets the Petrify, I go in and beat up this poor crazy gnome. And then from there, it's pretty simple cleanup. My evil gnome does a very similar strategy, and from there, it's just go around and kill a bunch of basilisks. If you pop an Oil of Speed and are quick, you can do this all in a single cast of Protection from Petrification. However, I typically don't do that. I just go back and talk to Zar, have them rejoin the party, have him cast Protection from Petrification on me again, and then get back to what I was doing. The goal here is to get to 32,000 XP so that whenever I go recruit companions, they join at the max allowable experience that they can get up to. This also means that the experience isn't split 6 ways, so that you effectively are getting just a boatload of free XP. Doing the garden here of the basilisks tends to get you to just over 25,000 XP, which means you need to get about 7,000 more. Some good ways are to talk to Marl at Baragost. If you talk him down from the fight, you get 900 XP and there's no fighting there. Firebeard's book is right next door, and that will get you another 300 XP. You can do these spiders, but if you don't have a good way of crowd controlling or kiting them, they can be a little dangerous. But you can get those and turn them in at the Friendly Arm Inn. You can turn in Joya's Ring near the Friendly Arm Inn, and that will get you, I believe it's 400 XP. Produce Sword is fine, but you have a guy that you got to fight there that makes that a little bit rough. You could go kill Shoal the Nereid and get 5,000 if you're good at kiting, though I tend to save that for later so that I can also kill the Ogre Mage. Melicamp, especially if you're not doing a no reload run, where if he dies off, you can just reload and get the XP. That's a nice easy one, and that gives a pretty big 2,000 XP. What I did for this particular run is I actually killed Grey Wolf, which I'll show in a little bit, and then also cleared down in the mines so that I was right off of the large group with the Kobold Shaman, so that way, whenever I recruited all my companions, I could rush down, kill off that group, kill off the kobolds right outside of Molahae's cave, and then pick up Zan, which was the thing that this good party had. because if I recruited everybody else and then cleared down in, then Zane would be a little bit behind, so I just used that extra XP that I need to farm anyway to go into the mines. And as a fighter with -5 AC, I think it was, that wasn't a problem. Speaking of Grey Wolf, if you are not a fighter without getting the Ankeg armor, large shield, etc., I don't recommend doing this. Also, being a Berserker makes it nicer because that gives you 2 more AC so that he only hits you on a 19 at this point, which, as you can see, he can still do pretty easily. This would have been easier if I had recruited Imoen and stolen her Potion of Speed, but I had just run away from her and forgot to do that. Also note that I tossed on the Belt of the Antipode, or whatever it's called. The one that you get off of Gorian's corpse. That makes you not take that 1 extra cold damage anytime you get hit. Along the way, Evil Zarania made her way on up to Larswood and grabbed Berloth for a companion for a minute. As a fighter illusionist, I can easily cast Sleep, kill off the Gibberlings. This is one of the 2 requirements. The second is that you need to have 10,000 XP. Then Berloth, the EE companion, gets spawned here. If you mash 1, he'll join your party. From there, you can steal his Robe of the Evil Archmagi, a quarterstaff +1, some darts, but note that these are all considered stolen items, so you can't just recruit him and sell off these high-value things until late. Here you'll see the strategy that I tend to use for Molohe. I have my Arcane Caster toss a web out to the top left so that the kobolds get webbed up and don't join the fight as quickly. The thief in the party, in this case Corin, has his sword out and hides in shadow, but unfortunately misses his backstab. Zan here was just recruited. I don't have any good damage scrolls for him. I didn't pick up Skull Trap before coming down, but that is quickly rectified after the recruitment. He basically just tosses a mirror image on himself and tries to not die. My Divine Caster, Branwyn, in this party, then just tosses out some buffs. We then just burn him down, and it goes pretty quickly if you don't have to fight the kobolds at the same time. After that, it's simply just some cleanup as the kobolds stream in. The evil party, I did basically the exact same thing. The only real difference is on this one, I had Vicky learn Animate Dead. Then Jaheira uses Strength of 1. That gives everybody within a 15-yard radius 1850 strength. And you'll note that I have Doran stand off to the side so that he is at he keeps his higher 19 strength. It's the same thing with preparing webs, and then everybody attacks Molohe. This time, Monty, who comes around, actually gets a big old backstab, and you'll note that his health just drops, and then he dies whenever I don't take his surrender, because never surrender to let Molohe surrender. He's an evil person. Then more of the kobolds actually got webbed, and Edwin was able to clean up with Skull Trap, and that made that really nice and easy. You'll also note the ring of free action that I picked up and tossed onto Jaheira there. That's going to come into play very effectively very shortly. You'll note that as I did this, I didn't show the exact way of getting through the mines. That's because it's basically just put things to sleep and then you kill them while they're on the ground. Kobolds are super easy, and I'm not going to show the non-hard encounters. Speaking of a possibly hard encounter, on SCS, Nimble will buff himself with a minor globe of invulnerability, and we have no way to remove that at this point. So instead, we just backstab him. Since we're taking Corin on this run, and we recruited him before we normally would, because of the way the Weidu mods are, we have to take care of a little bit of a wyvern problem at a little bit lower level than you would be. This is actually fine. Just if you lure them out, send in some skeletons to tank them for a second so that you can toss some AoEs and toss out some buffs, you can pretty easily just nuke down the wyverns, and they don't tend to be too big of a problem. In non-SCS, Molkar leads a group of shorties to attack you at the south end of Gullykin. They are completely skippable, and you can kill them for the nice set of chainmail, or you can skip them because they can be a little bit rough depending on what your exact party comp is if you're not ready for them. Which is why SCS moves them to be a bandit encounter where they interrupt your travel. And you can't pre-buff for obvious reasons. And especially if you make the mistake of casting Magic Missile on a guy who has shield, that can be a pretty big problem. Luckily, Branwyn, our Divine Caster in this group, who is the only real CC, Zan has Blind, I think, at this point. But beyond that, my Arcane Casters don't have a good set of CCs. But Brandon manages to get off 2 good hold persons, and the group falls down pretty quickly after that. The big parts are just make sure the Arcane Caster doesn't destroy you, but if he gets held, he can be beat on pretty easily because his mirror images don't count for too much if he's always getting hit. And hold person lasts for a really long time. So once you take out everybody else, you can just quickly kill the held people. On the evil side, Edwin has Horror, which makes things go a little bit easier. It has a lot bigger of a range than Hold Person does. Jahira casts Alicorn Lance just to make the person that she's hitting a little bit easier. Dorn uses his Aura, which makes things have lower attack against you. We get a Horror off that scares one guy, and then Edwin shortly gets the other 2, and that just makes the cleanup easy. You'll note that I am a pretty big proponent of having my Arcane Casters mainly focus on CCing and making it so that the fighters can do their job. This is a pretty big playstyle thing for me, but it works out pretty well. It's also because, as you can see here, if somebody does get a hit off on you, you take a ton of damage. Non-SCS Basilius is a cakewalk and a free 5,000 gold. On SCS, it's a little bit more of a challenge. I personally like to do the 3-1-1 option, which if you talk to him like that, it makes all of his skeletons get killed off. I then also tend to just throw out a ton of CC at him, so that he can't walk up and one-shot people, because he does a lot of damage on SCS. I also tend to throw out a silence if I can. This makes it so that he can't keep on casting spells, because he likes to flame strike people, and that just murders them. Another guy you have to watch out for on SCS is Tranzig. You'll note that I left my 2 mages downstairs. That's because if you don't do that, then he likes to cast a spell that will do like 50 plus damage, and that just murders them. So I don't perma-lose my mages, I just leave them downstairs and then cast some CC. Here I use Silence, which has a saving throw penalty for the opponent, which is very good against Divine Casters in general, because Arcane Casters typically have Vocalize later on, but without him being able to do anything, he drops easily. For the evil party, I snuck Montion up on his own. He gets off a big backstab, and then from there he tries to surrender, but as we've said before, Monty doesn't let people surrender, and so instead we just murder him as well. The Amazons that are normally whenever you come out of the Nashkel mines and are up to the north are a similar thing on SCS, where they make it so that you can't just pre-buff and kill them. They are another of these random encounters. And they can be absolutely terrifying because, as you'll see here in a second, the backstabs that come out are awful. So what I do is I have both Zan and Nira cast Mirror Image. That will make them less likely to be targeted. And am ready on the spacebar, because as soon as somebody gets targeted by that backstab, if they get hit like that, I am ready to immediately toss them a heal. I passed over an extra healing potion, and then he runs off. And then Zan tosses a blind on the archer, and from there it's able to be cleaned up without too much of a issue. The big thing's mitigating that initial backstab, especially because sometimes the archer also likes to go in stealth and team up, and then they get a double backstab off on somebody. And if that happens and you don't have Detective Viz ready, you're just dead. And now for the meat of this one. The Bandit camp in non-SCS is typically not a problem, but with the improved calls for help, things are a little bit more interesting. To prepare for this on the good party, I went ahead and pickpocketed the Ring of Free Action. I did that by passing over a Potion of Master Thievery, and then put that onto my main PC. Then Nira comes up and tosses a web onto, as you can see, the massive amount of people. Zane tosses out a sleep to try and also help control the incoming damage here. My main PC has pretty good armor, so it's not a big problem, and the Ring of Free Action means that you can come into here and not get CC'd by this group of webs. Like how my buddy there walked right up like an idiot. That's kind of what I was wanting to avoid doing, but c'est la vie. So from there, I have massive AoEs tossed out with fireballs and skull traps. This would be a little bit easier with a trick that I did on the evil party that I didn't do here, but the same idea applies of toss out webs and then hit the people who are in the webs with skull traps, fireballs, running around, having people be archers. You'll notice that Ajantis here is sitting there with a bow on because there's only one Ring of Free Action. I think I might have had a Potion of Freedom, which would have made things a little easier, but as you can see by Zan getting murked there, if you're not careful, these things do a ton of damage, and that's why we are very much using web as another part of our strategy. And BG1 web is a core component of my strategies for several bosses, as you saw for Mullahay. For here, we'll use it on Devorn as well. Overall, it's just a very nice spell to have in Baldur's Gate 1. I don't use it as much in BG2, but in BG1, it's definitely a core component. For the evil party, I made a stop on by the Onkeg pit. It's near where you recruit Ajantis, where you need to go on in and get the kid's body. While there, I picked up a Wand of Fire. I did the same thing with having Vicky summon some skeletons, use Strength of 1. We have Dorn using his longbow, which is going to shortly have a nice upgrade. Same idea with webs, same idea with, in this case, having Jahira use the Ring of Free Action, because the main PC is going to be sitting back and using that Wand of Fire, so he's not, or she's not needing to run in and actually do anything with the webs themselves. This one goes a little bit smoother. In part, my main PC has better armor against missiles than Zan did. After that, I remembered there was a piece of gear that I needed to pick up, which I'll show in a second. But this one, it just goes smooth where I toss out webs and then have everybody hit the people in the webs, toss out fireballs, and things die. If you didn't catch it, the big difference, besides the entire bandit camp outside being pulled at once, the inside of the bandit camp, where you fight the leaders, also, they come out to play as well. So that's what can make this one pretty tricky, is you have about 70 or 80 bandits coming to fight you. I don't know that's actually that many, but it feels like it's that many. Of which several are the actual bandit leaders as well as all their mooks. Note that I do have a haste running. That makes it so that your action's a little faster. You can cast without getting interrupted. The mirror images also help, and the Wand of Fire can't be interrupted. So overall, it makes things go pretty smoothly and actually even smoother on the evil side, in part because Edwin has a very good AC against missiles here. I also figured I'd give a gear update here. My main PC has -6 AC for the good side. That's pretty good, though obviously we have a couple modifiers here. Notably, the Destroyer of Hills is against crushing, which that's going to be changed out for the slashing belt once I go kill the guys at the garden again. We have our full plate +1, or the full plate normal, on both my main and the Ajantis here. We got one from buying it, one from the Bandit camp. We've had our Varsicona and our large shield +1. We purchased this at the Thunderhammer Smithy. We have a Ring of the Princes. We have our Ring of Free Action. We pickpocketed the cloak. We have the Legacy of the Masters from the area right over here, Firewine Bridge. So we got that as here as well as at the Bandit camp. So at this point, this character is looking pretty good. The big changes are going to be the belt, the stat tomes, the boots of the cheetah, some neck. Helm of Baldur probably will go to this character as well for the extra AC, just to get, or actually this one might get the Helm of Glory and then give the Helm of Baldur over to Corin to make him even more of a Thaco Lord. We have a shield of large shield +3 to pick up at Durlags. So we still have some upgrades, but we're in a pretty good spot here. Ajantis is using Aishadina. I gave him points in Warhammer. He notably gets the Dex gloves to make it so that he has pretty good decks from bad decks. It takes him from -2 to -6 AC. He has a medium shield +1, a cloak of protection. I gave him the fire res ring, but I'm not going to use that for a little bit. At some point, I'll probably give somebody 100% fire res and then use that to run in while just bombarding with fireballs. But I'm not to that point quite yet. Branwen, I did buy the Greenstone Amulet. She also got the Legacy of the Masters just because there's no one else who's a really good spot. She's using the Ring of Soon from Mullahay because in this party she's the only Divine Caster until BG2. She also got the electricity resistance boots, not that they are that big of a deal. Since we did the Bandit camp, we have the Deadshot +2 for Corin. He has Warren Whispers as well as the Shadow Armor and the Dale Protectors for +2 Thaco. So he's sitting on 4 Thaco, which is actually much better than my other party members. Corin is a cheater, and I'm here for it. I also gave him the Harrower in case we go against Undead and he wants to hit him a little bit better. Not that his melee weapon's too big of a deal. For Nira, I did give her the Claw of Kazgara. Because she starts off with 14 con, going down to 12 con actually doesn't change her hit points per level. So that means that she has a pretty massive now -8 AC against missiles. And then she also got the Robe of the Neutral Archmagi, which I purchased at High Hedge. So she's sitting at 1 AC and -7 against ranged attacks. That's because she has the Cloak of Displacement. She also got the Ever Memory just because she has a little bit better level 1 spell selection. Zan, now, I forgot to get this before we went, is using Elves Bane. So he has -9 against missiles, but his base AC is 10. Unfortunately, he starts off as lawful neutral, as does Nira, which means that with the one robe of the neutral Archmagi in the game, I have to pick which character is going to get that. So Zan is still got his armor prepared, and that takes him down to AC 6. So that's better than this 10. So he's actually on important fights at 3 AC with -9 against missiles. But once we kill Devorn, he'll get the bracers that take him down to 3. And then he'll be at -6 against missiles. So he'll be in a pretty good spot as well. Notably, he doesn't really use the Moonblade. If I need to give him some fire res, he can. But that's about all that's used for. He did get the Senses of the Cat, which are the boots off of the assassin at the Nashkel Mines. So that's what our good parties looking like. We'll also see that we're sitting at 6650 gold, and that's after purchasing, a full plate, the armor for Koran, Nira's ring, the robe of the neutral arc magi. That's because we're sitting at 20 reputation, and my main PC has 20 charisma. So overall, we get a much bigger discount than the evil party gets. For the evil party, we're sitting on about 1,000 less gold, but we haven't sold yet. So there will be some coming in from there. We have not done all that purchasing of the big pieces. We did buy the large shield +1. We did buy Monty the army scythe. So it is the 1 extra APR crossbow. I could have given him the composite longbow instead. That might have been a better choice, but this is what I went with because I don't typically use crossbows too often. So the crossbow speed is fun. So we went with that. But you'll note that he doesn't have the same stealth armor yet. I haven't bought the same ring. Edwin, however, has Elfsbane and Senses of the Cat and the Robe of Displacement. So he has a massive -13 here to AC. And once we kill Devorn, he drops another Robe of the Evil Archmagi. So he's going to be sitting on 5 -12 against missiles. So his missile one doesn't actually change, but it gives him some MR and +1 to saves compared to just the AC against missiles. So he's sitting in a pretty good spot. You'll note that my armor class on the fighter mage is a lot worse. That's because we have our Robe of the Evil Archmagi, which sets our AC to 5 rather than 1. We're also missing the point of Dex on this character until we get to Baldur's Gate. So once we get to Baldur's Gate, that will go down to -2. Then we still have, we can cast Blur, we can cast Mirror Image. We'll be able to have Edwin cast Spirit Armor on us. So our AC is going to keep on getting better. Note that once we get Spirit Armor especially, that will be a pretty good spot. And then we're still using Varsicona because a fighter mage can't go to Grand Mastery. I went ahead and put points in both Longsword and Flail. And then once we get to BG2, we'll have 3 points to put into dual wielding. And then we'll just use a point into Scimitar or 2 points into Scimitar so that we can have our offhand go up. But the offhand Belm doesn't matter too much. Because we have Dorn in the party, that means we get to use this Amulet of Spell Warding. So that gives us an extra +2 versus spell. So our save versus spell on this character is looking good because we're a shorty. So we get the extra bonus to saves. So overall, this character is looking pretty good, but lower AC. Jaheira, we did get the full plate armor from killing out the bandits, and she got the gloves for the Dex gloves. Again, it gives her 4 AC, which is massive. We did buy her the Dagger of Venom, and when she gets another proficiency point, we'll get 2 points in daggers, which will bring her to 3/2 APR instead of 1. So that will be a nice little damage gain for her. The Dagger of Venom is one of the best weapons in the game, so we went ahead and did that. We are still looking to buy the full plate armor to give over to Dorn. He got the dead shot in this party, like I said. Vicky obviously gets the ring, and because her strength is lower, she can only use a small shield compared to a medium shield, but she still gets the greenstone amulet, so that if she gets CC'd, she can break people out of CC. And then my thieves all get the Worn Whispers for obvious reasons. You'll note that Monty's wearing this angel skin ring. That's so that I can turn it in Baldur's Gate for the quest there. And then Edwin obviously comes with his extra wizard spell. So that's why we like him so much. I think that's it for an update for this one. Of the people here, Edwin already has 16 con, so giving him the ring is not good. Monty has 15. I'll double check to see if that will affect his shorty saves. Vicky has 8, which I think is too low. I think 6 is a penalty. Dorn has 14 con, so he might be our choice. Going from 14 down to 12 con doesn't change your HP per level. Going from 16 up to 16 is the important breakpoint. So if Dorn had had 16 or 18 con, he would have been a lot nicer. That's why he's only got 60 HP, and Jaheira has more than he does, because she has 17 con. If she'd had 18, she'd be getting the bonus from Fighter. And then I obviously have my full 18 con, and that's why, despite Dorn and I having the same amount of XP and him having level 6 versus my 5-5, that I have only 5 less HP because Dorn unfortunately doesn't come with enough constitution, and that's why I typically don't run with him. But we're giving him a try this time, and we might see how squishy he ends up being. But I think that's it for our update for episode 2, and I will see you all in the next one.